Hey guys, welcome back to the Ye Old Spectre Creative channel. I'm Scott Toy Guru Neitlich, talking all things toys. I have been a lifelong toy collector and also blessed to have worked in the toy industry for both small and large companies, which is what we talk about on this channel. So, there's been a lot of news and a lot of scuttlebutt about Hasbro and what's going on with Hasbro. They have been reporting that they're looking at not only, I guess, selling off the remaining years of licensed brands like Star Wars or potentially Marvel, just as an example of a licensed brand, and using their homegrown brands, the ones they own, like Transformers, Monopoly, G.I. Joe, to produce content and license those brands out. And this is causing a lot of people to say, well, wait a minute, is Hasbro still even a toy company? Their most profitable lines this last year were paper and digital, basically, card games, Dungeons and Dragons, that kind of thing, Magic the Gathering. Actually, I'm sorry, Dungeons and Dragons is not a card game, but it doesn't involve it, the way Magic is. But basically, not the traditional plastic, dolls and little men and cars and that kind of thing. So this refocuses a lot because their current CEO comes from the computer industry, or, the tech industry. And this tends to happen a lot. I remember while I was at Mattel, I think we went to like 3 or 4 CEOs in just as many years. It was crazy. And they were always kind of sort of applying their industry. One of them came from, I believe, craft. And the toy industry is very unique because it's high cost in development, tooling, that type of thing, licensing, high risk. If the movie doesn't perform, you're done, and constant demand for newness. So there's a lot of pressure in the toy industry, unlike other like craft. Macaroni and cheese is macaroni and cheese. Yes, it's changed a little bit. There's new shapes, but compare that to the dramatic change in, to say, a basic action figure between, say, 2015 and 2025 or 24. So the year I'm recording this. So yeah, and there's constant demand from retailers for seasonal products, for newness, which is why packaging changes, usually once a year or twice a year for seasonality. All right, so with all of this as general background, how does this affect what the decision Hasbro is making to potentially get out of the traditional toy making business and move into just licensing out their properties the way, say, Disney does. Disney does not manufacture Mickey Mouse action figures. They license out Mickey Mouse to companies who make Mickey Mouse action figures. Same with, Marvel and Star Wars, right? Hey, pick 2 green things. How strange. Maybe it's early St. Patrick's Day. So Hasbro is looking to be more like Disney and own the properties as opposed to making the product. And a lot of people are saying, oh my God, what a terrible idea. Hasbro is a toy company. Yes, I can say from a from a business standpoint, from a P&L standpoint, it's probably a good idea because Hasbro does own a lot of IP, a lot more than Mattel, for example. And Hasbro's IP, like G.I. Joe, Monopoly, Transformers, compare that to Mattel, which basically has Barbie and Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels isn't as much an IP as it is a brand. There's not a personality that goes with Hot Wheels, despite multiple attempts to do this with different TV shows, etc. over the years, like the Accelerators. But that being said, Hasbro is in a position where their IP is already in demand to be licensed out, and they're already doing this. We see things like when I was with Jada, we were negotiating with Hasbro for the Transformers license to make die-cast Transformers, which we got. And I remember sitting in that meeting thinking, wow, this is so weird because I work for Jada and I'm meeting with Hasbro. I'm thinking, why does Hasbro just not make, but it makes sense because it's, from a business standpoint, to just sit back and collect royalties, it's actually even a completely different tax way you report income. Royalties are considered a passive income as opposed to a salary, and they're taxed very differently. So if you have something that you can license out for royalties, whether it's, the Muppets or, my own creation, Myth Wars, if you can sit back and just collect royalties, that is it's a much better financial standpoint, especially for the way taxes are calculated, which I've learned. So that being said, we're all emotionally attached to Hasbro and to the toy lines they produce. Transformers, G.I. Joe were big parts of our childhood. They now make Marvel and Star Wars, two of the biggest brands out there, although you could argue with that based on toy sales recently. Or at least they have been big brands and evergreen. But yeah, and you see them already licensing out Mask and Power Rangers. Do I think this is where Hasbro is going? Absolutely. They're moving their headquarters out of Pawtucket. And while emotionally it feels almost kind of like a betrayal, from a business standpoint, it makes total sense because as a company, Hasbro will make a lot more money if they just license out their IP as opposed to making toys based on their IP. Most toy companies, here's the catch, do not own their own IP. Very, very few do. Back in the day, that's really kind of that's the summary. See how videos sometimes actually do get to a point. I'm not just rambling. Back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, toy companies owned their own IP. And, this culminated in the 80s when Reagan had the FCC deregulated, which allowed 30-minute toy commercials, if you will, to be aired as TV shows like, He-Man and G.I. Joe and My Little Pony and Gem and all of that stuff. So that was kind of the golden age of toy companies creating their own IP because they could own it and then produce content because of the FCC deregulation. That was changed after Reagan left office, but it kind of doesn't matter now because now we have streaming, which isn't regulated by the FCC, which is why, Netflix can have like He-Man and, He-Man toys can be sold based on Netflix shows or Stranger Things as a Netflix homegrown. So that's really why Hasbro is in a unique position because unlike almost any other toy company now, Spin Master, Jazzwares, Basic Fun, even Mattel, and Jax and Jada, Hasbro just owns significantly more IP. They own because they've acquired a lot of companies. They've acquired Kenner and Tonka, so they acquired all of this IP that was developed in the 80s. Yeah, it's much different from, again, Mattel's got He-Man, Barbie, and Hot Wheels. I mean, they have Big Jim, Mad Scientist, Max Steel, and Polly Pocket, but those aren't as powerful. I mean, Monopoly is it, and it has a character, Uncle Pennybags. So, I mean, Monopoly is stronger than any of those brands, and that's not even, that's a game. That's not even an action thing. But hey, anyone who's seen the original Clue movie knows that board games and movies can work when done correctly. 1 + 1 + 2 + 1. No. All right. So that's it. That's basically why we're seeing Hasbro explore this, and I think successfully. And I think we're going to start to see them move out of the toy business and into the licensing business. It makes sense from a business perspective because of the unique position Hasbro's in that they own so much toy IP. G.I. Joe and Transformers and My Little Pony alone are, some of the biggest brands in the world. And while Mattel's got Barbie, they don't have as many brands as Hasbro. So this does make a little bit of sense. What do you guys think? I mean, how do you feel about the idea that Hasbro may be getting out of the toy business and why? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. It's the best way to support this channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.